Sometimes I feel like I'm just existing. I'm not really living. I'm only watching the time slip away. I've forgotten who I am in you. I'm not who I'm meant to be. No, no. I'm drifting farther away from my destiny.
Hi, my name is Gail Nordskog, and this is Hearts of Purpose. The reason I do this show is because I meet so many seemingly ordinary people that do extraordinary things. My guest today is John Broman, who has a work in Japan, and I just had the privilege of meeting him today for the first time. We've talked, but I think this man has a story to share with you that's going to be incredible, what God is doing in Japan. So, how are you, John?
Hi,
I want to
Gail.
shake your hand. Let's do
Yes. Thank you for having me on your show today.
It
It's
is
my
so nice
pleasure.
to have you and to actually meet you in person.
Well, same to you.
Yeah, well, very good. Your ministry in Japan has been bringing a lot of relief to the tsunami earthquake victims there. Can you share some of the stories and what you've experienced?
Sure, I'd be glad to do that. Actually, the day that the earthquake hit, I was here in Los Angeles, and I found out about it Friday morning, very early. I happened to look at my cell phone, and I had all these emails that were coming in asking me how Mason Academy, the school that I work for, and the Christian group over there that I'm affiliated with, were doing. And that was the first time I'd heard about it. But since then, I got involved over here with some other folks who wanted to to help in Japan with relief funds. And I worked together with them for about a month, and then after that I went to Japan myself, back to back with some school business, and actually went out to the front lines and got involved and heard some of the stories of the people that I had been sending the funds over to, and they had been using it for the work over there.
When you first got over there, it was about a month
Yes,
after
it was about a month after
the tsunami hit.
Yes.
What was your first reaction when you started walking around and seeing
I
the
just,
devastation?
everything I had seen on television and everything I had seen in the newspaper did not do the actual scope, did not do justice to the actual scope of things, of how things had happened over there. It was words, I could not find the words to explain it. I tried, like, is this the way Hiroshima looked after the A-bomb was dropped on it? I know I tried all kinds of different ways, but I just could not find the words. It was a total knockout for me too.
Is this area where the tsunami hit, is that an area you're very familiar with?
I am very familiar with that area. In fact, as I was growing up in and around those the two prefectures of Iwate and Miyagi there, I was often on the coastline there as a teenager or as a kid, and most of those towns are towns that I have been through in the past.
So I would imagine that was devastating to
Yes.
see that for the first time, because
Yes.
they were wiped out. There was nothing.
They were totally wiped out. There was just nothing except for maybe a few concrete buildings here and there. A whole town, whole city would be just completely gone.
Did you know any of the people that have been missing? And
Actually,
died?
there were two of my students that lived, one in Keisen-Numa City and another one in Rikuzen, Takada. These are both big cities there that were wiped out. And one of them, I was able to get in touch with her parents in Sendai, and I found out a week later she was okay. But the other one, I actually took the address when I was back in April, went out through the dark, no lights yet, no nothing, went to shelters, ended up going to the local temple, and they pulled out the book that has everybody's addresses in it, and they verified that, yes, she was of this village, and they told me that their family was okay. But that was like 40 days later. And then in the dark, we went to the house and we met. We hadn't seen each other for 13 years.
But it was just what a relief to know.
Yes,
that
yes. And then right away,
like
just
that.
right away, I asked, "What is it your village needs here right now?" And Japanese are so polite; they tell you, we've got everything we need. If they have water, they'll tell you they have everything they need. But but as I talked, I found out, and the thing I found out that was the most needed was they had senior citizens that were living by themselves, and all they had was candlelight for everything. And I thought that is just too dangerous. You can have the tsunami hit, and you can have the earthquake hit, and the tsunami hit. But the last thing you need is a fire to burn down a few more houses. Everybody wouldn't even feel like living anymore. And so we turned around that day. I called ahead. We had a really good network, where a GPS system. Where they tag a house or tag a village. The scouts that go out tag it, and email in the list of things that need to be bought. Immediately they start buying it, sometimes within the day, sometimes by the next day they deliver exactly what the people were asking
Is this
for.
something that your ministry was doing?
Yes, this is what this was. We were the ones that were doing that.
You were doing this?
Yes, we were doing
I noticed that you also worked with Samaritan's Purse.
Yes, and sometimes the orders were too big for our funds to fill, and that's where the Samaritan's Purse and their relief members and their efforts came in. We just really worked close together. We worked very close together on April 2nd. Mr. Graham, Franklin Graham, he came over and he used our facilities in Japan for a conference that day with the local pastors. And it was really nice. They brought in, on their first jet, they brought in 93 tons of relief goods. Well, they arrived in Japan and they needed a storehouse. They contacted us, and by the time the Air Force flew their goods up to Sendai, we had the warehouse, we had the trucking company waiting for them at the airport. And my brother loves this story about himself, but he said he was the one that brought the trucking company, and he had arranged for all this. And the commander that was there says, "Well, it looks like you know better than I do, so you take over." And he took over, and all the soldiers were all saluting him, and he was telling him where to load what, and then shipping it to the warehouse. And from there, the next day, about 1 week after the disaster hit, it was when the relief goods came in, and they just started shipping them out to the villages, and they delivered 50 tons within 15 days.
And what was most of the things that you were delivering?
At that time, it was food, blankets, underwear, the hygiene kits, and everything from soap to shampoo to whatever, and then things came in like cooking utensils, just sheets, and then also the equipment that they use for cleaning mud out of buildings. That came in a little bit later. But and then just things like bicycles, people need to get around, and I was very impressed, and I was also very thankful to see how much the Samaritan's Purse had brought over of all that stuff. And it really worked well because we had the maps of the whole coastal area in detail, and we knew exactly where what school was because of our Christian ministry there, and we were able to tie up with them and work together as a team, and things just went perfect.
That's amazing. I was thinking of, I went through the earthquake here in '94 in the San Fernando Valley, and that was devastating enough. But with the tsunami hitting and then the aftershocks, I cannot imagine how these people must have felt, the fear and the hopelessness. On the news, it was amazing how everyone seemed to handle themselves with such poise. Is that an actual custom of the people? They just have learned
it's
to...
partly their culture, and you're not to express emotion. You just kind of grit and bear it, hold it in, and you try to make the best of things. And it's been a while since Japan's had to do that.
Yes.
But I was very pleasantly surprised this time that it was still intact, because it is a nice treat to have. And I was very happy to see the way the Japanese reacted to this thing. It was, you might take notice that the earthquake in itself did not do that much damage.
Exactly, yeah.
Their building code, especially in the Sendai area, they take pride in being one of the toughest cities in Japan. And their building code was all changed after the Kobe earthquake.
Right.
And it was after that we rebuilt our schools. And so our schools are basically intact. That's why from day 3 and day 4 we were able to take in all these overseas relief organizations and let them kind of headquarter out of our place and then find warehouses for them around. But that was really good. But it was a tsunami that wiped everybody out.
Right.
Because they were prepared for a tsunami, but they were not prepared for that kind of a tsunami.
Right.
You know, people were talking about how high it was, but at one village we went to, the people in the town were saying, you know, they're telling us it was 10 meters, 20 meters, but actually we measured it after it had gone out, and it was 38 meters. Now, 38 meters, which this is over 40 yards, is an awfully high one. And in Rikuzen Takada, the city is about 2 miles or 3 miles wide at the coastline there, and then mountains go up on each side. And when I was there, everything was flat over 5 miles inland. Ships were up 5 miles inland. It kind of is a triangle,
right,
because of the way the mountains go. And right, I remember a couple places, there were a couple 5-story apartment buildings. And these 2 buildings were still standing with another big hotel, but everything else was totally gone. And you could see that on the 4th floor, everything was gutted out.
Oh, my goodness.
Now think, 2 miles, 3 miles across, 4 stories high.
Everything's wiped out.
Everything's wiped out.
I can't imagine it.
I can't either. I just stood there, just stunned. And the thing is, it's every town and village all the way up the coast, and I only got halfway up to Rikuzen Takada. From there up to Miyako and Hachinohe, I haven't had the time to go. But it's just by the time you hit the same story 10 times in one day, you kind of start, you just don't know what's happening to yourself. And I came back I'm thinking right now, probably the John Broman I knew before I left doesn't exist anymore.
Right. All your memories, everything.
Yeah, it's just all it's all of that area is gone, and also I've just been affected by this, so that I can't be the same anymore, from before I left.
Right.
But that's life for
Tell
them
me,
right now.
What is some of the good that you've seen come out of this tragedy? Is there any good at this point that's come out of this tragedy?
Well, yes. I personally think that because this area is the area that our Christian ministry had covered for 50, 60 years, there was a lot of seed planted. And I think you can safely say that 90% of the people that were influenced by the tsunami, the earthquake and tsunami, had all heard the gospel multiple times. So when the last minutes of their life came, they knew who to call out to if they were willing to humble themselves. It reminded me of the story of the 2 thieves on the cross with Jesus.
Yes.
One just kept mocking all the way. But the other one humbled himself and said, "I'd like to be with you in heaven." And Jesus said, "You will." And I'm sure we're going to see a lot of people in heaven because they knew who to go to. This is the beauty and the ashes for me.
Yes, yes. That is definitely a good way to look at that situation. And
but, the stories, they just continue. And